everyone. Karen Roby and Veronica Combs here for Tech Republic. We're talking today about how two companies have teamed up to help with removing hazardous waste after fires in California from last year. Veronica, this is really interesting. I think a good place to start would be just explain what the problem was. You know, what was the problem they were confronting, and then we'll get to how IoT actually has played a big role in helping.
So we've all heard about the terrible fires going on all over the East Coast, all over the West Coast and also in Colorado. And, when you have thousands and thousands of acres burn, you have all this hazardous waste that you have to get rid of. So the company I talked to, Goodfellow Bros, they're a construction company. They're based on the West Coast. They formed a joint venture with two other companies to help clean up all this debris from the 2018 Camp Fire. So if you remember, the town of Paradise, California, essentially burned to the ground. And so there were almost 19,000 buildings that burned. And, people wanted to go back and live there. You can't leave this hazardous waste. So these construction companies won a state contract to get rid of all this debris. They estimated that the fire caused about $16 billion in damages, and the cleanup alone was $1 billion. So it was an enormous project to take all this hazardous waste out of the town to dumps that can handle that kind of waste.
Yeah, so Veronica, this is where it gets interesting how technology actually steps in, IoT specifically, to help digitize a process that otherwise wouldn't have been before.
Yeah, so this construction company, Goodfellow Bros, they had a telematics system on some of their equipment already. They have giant earth movers, and they do a lot of, they build dams, and they were working on a project at the zoo in Portland, Oregon to build an elephant enclosure. So they have these giant machines which require a lot of maintenance and a lot of care. And so they had a telematics solution to kind of automate some of that stuff, but they really wanted cameras so that their drivers could have an extra level of safety. So they looked to Samsara, which is an IoT company. They specialize in logistics, so tracking things in factories, tracking big earth moving pieces of equipment. And the way Goodfellow Bros had just started using Samsara about 6 months before the Camp Fire in 2018. So they had a little bit of experience, but then they really came into play, the technology really came into play during this cleanup. So they needed 500 dump trucks to get all this debris out of Paradise, California. And the tricky part was that they had 6 dump sites they could take this hazardous waste to. And so some of them were a half hour away, but some of them were like a day's drive. So it'd take you 4 hours to get there, dump your hazardous waste, and then come back to Paradise, California. And so they realized quickly that, they didn't want to be paying people to be waiting in line at the dump, because obviously everybody's going to go to the closest spot, because who wants to drive 8 hours to dump a load of trash? And so they had this plug-in unit, and they gave it to all 500 truck drivers who were independent contractors. So that's an extra level of complexity to manage. So each truck driver got this unit, they plugged it into their cigarette lighter, and that tagged the truck, put this individual truck on a dashboard. And so then a dispatcher in Paradise could watch this dashboard and say, oh, this dump has got 5 trucks waiting, so you need to go to this dump. They could look for like when a truck was maybe stopped at the side of the road, so they could help in an emergency. Maybe a truck broke down and they needed assistance. They also were able to digitize the whole time card process, because they used geofencing as part of the solution, so they could tell when someone was working, and the truck drivers didn't have to maintain a paper time card anymore, which, that would be a nice incentive too. Never mind, not sitting in traffic and waiting. So they used this solution for all 500 trucks, and they were able to reduce haul times by 40%. They had this dispatcher who was routing people around, and they said they could avoid traffic on the freeway in addition to everything else. So they reduced the haul times by 40%, and they also cut the overall hours they needed the truck drivers by 20%. So people could get paid faster because of the automated time tracking, and then they actually came in under budget, about 10% under budget on the state contract. That was a big deal to the company, because obviously, you say, I'm going to do this work for this much money. And if you go over, you just have to eat that extra cost. So they were thrilled to be able to work with the truckers more efficiently and also save money themselves. So now they can they can drill down on a job to a much finer detail. So they can say, well, this truck cost this much to run, and it was this, that represents this chunk of this project. So not only does the IoT solution help them with just day-to-day routing, but they can do much, they have a lot more operations detail on each vehicle. So they can say, oh, this truck is more cost efficient than that truck, or this truck needs more expensive maintenance, so we shouldn't use it on this job, we should use it on that job. So in addition to helping with specific job, they also have lots of uses for the future for this IoT solution.
That's really impressive. Some significant savings in time and money, Veronica. And IoT, we're seeing incredible things from the technology, and who knows where it'll take us, too, into the future. All right. Well, much more, of course, on this in your full article, which can be found on Tech Republic. And we hope you guys will check it out there. And we appreciate you watching.